Good afternoon. Today is the 31st of December, although it'll be probably a few days before you see this video. You do see my hands though. And today I want to talk about the manufacturers who did well in 2019 and the ones who didn't do so well. Please bear in mind this data is not based on 12 months, it's only based on 11 months. You won't see here the most comprehensive picture, but it's a pretty good idea of what happened to the various brands I talk about in a lot of videos in 2019. So the data that I've found is taken straight from the SMMT website. It talks about the market share that a certain brand has in Britain, and it talks about the change from last year. We'll go through these in alphabetical order just to keep it nice and simple. First of all, we have Abarth. Now the market share for them has decreased by 37% between 2018 and 2019. Their market share is now 0.15%. That's not very good. They've only got one model on sale now though, so that's probably something to do with it. Alfa Romeo, yet another Fiat Chrysler product. Their market share is actually the same as Abarth. It's about 0.15%. That is about an 18% decrease. Then we've got Alpine. Now Alpine, part of Renault, as you know. Renault themselves haven't done too well. We'll get onto that later. But Alpine, their market share is at 0.1%. And actually, because they sold a lot more cars this year than in 2018, it's an 18% increase. Audi, now they have, according to these statistics, a 6% market share in this country. It's one of actually the highest we'll come across on the list. That sounds great until you realise that that's a 5% decrease on last year. It's quite interesting which ones have increased, which ones have decreased. So Audi's a sort of luxury brand in the Volkswagen Group. Bentley's another one. That's another decrease of 3.6% this year. BMW, another luxury brand, German one. They've got a 7.2% market share, but that's down 3% over 2018. Then we go on to Citroën. Citroën, they've held it pretty steady. The amount of cars they've sold in this country is starting to sort of, it's actually slightly increased in 2019. It's around 48,000. It's about 300 cars more. And they've had a very small increase at about 0.6%, which for them I think is pretty good. They've had years of decline, actually, Citroën, on the UK market compared with, say, 10 years ago. Dacia, they're a company which has done really well at various points during the year, and their market share is up, it says here, by about 28.3%, which is brilliant. And they've now sold just under 29,000 cars. Now, that's actually more cars than Fiat sold in 2019, which gives you the idea of the sort of scale of some of these manufacturers now. It's quite amazing. DS, part of Citroën and Peugeot, they've had a 26% decrease in their market share. They've only got 2 cars on sale in this country. It's the DS3 and the DS7 Crossback. So that's not the best, I suppose. Hopefully that'll do better for them. So yeah, Fiat themselves, they've sold this year, bear in mind these are figures just until the end of November, 28,057 cars, and they're at 1.3% market share. That is down significantly by about 17%. Let's look at Ford now. So I've changed hands with the camera to make it a little bit easier for me to hold whilst I look at the statistics on one of my other devices here. Ford, they're by far the biggest of all manufacturers in this country. They have been for a very, very long time. Fiesta, before that, the Escort was the best-selling car in this country. Before that, I think it was the Cortina. So, you know, their rivalry for years in terms of other people coming and and trying to usurp their place. That hasn't really happened. Nevertheless, if you look at the figures, they've sold quite a number of few cars this year than last year. We're still talking over 200,000 cars, but they've lost market share by about 7%, and they've got a 10.2% of the market share. There is another manufacturer that's getting quite close to them, and we'll get on to what that is in a little while. Honda. Now, they used to have quite a big market share in this country. The figures here say it's about 1.9% at the moment. It's just over 41,000 cars sold in 2019 up until the end of November. But that's a 17.6% decrease over the last year. They haven't done very well this year at all, actually. It's a bit of a shame because they make some nice cars. Hyundai. Now, with Hyundai and Kia, it really kind of just depends as to, which one of them is doing the best. And in this particular instance, Hyundai has decreased in 2019. They sold about 80,000 cars. It's a 3.7% market share. It's down about 7.5%, which is quite surprising, really. I don't know why that is. Infiniti, well, that's not really surprising. They have dropped by 60% market share, and the brand's been discontinued. They only sold 292 cars in 2019. Jaguar, they've only very slightly decreased. I mean, we have a lot of people who love Jaguars in this country. That's not surprising. I kind of like them myself as well, although I prefer Rovers, but that's by the by, because you can't buy one new anymore. So they're at about 1.58% market share. Jeep, now they are Fiat Chrysler's most successful brand in this country by far. They're probably the most successful brand that they have in Europe, and maybe other places too. They are on the rise, and they've got a 1.36% increase in their market share, and they sold just under 6,000 cars. Kia. Now, Kia sold more cars than Hyundai. They sold something like 12,000 more cars. And they increased their market share by 0.42%, which gives them, compared with Hyundai, they're on 3.7%. Kia's are now on 4.3% market share. The Sportage is the 10th best-selling car in this country and one of the best-selling crossovers. One of the reasons I think that has happened is because Kia has a 7-year warranty and Hyundai only has a 5-year warranty, and their cars are extremely similar. They're very similar. These are the same engines, a lot of the same components, just the styling's a bit different, and the warranty package is slightly different. Whichever you want to buy, well, that's up to you, really. They're good cars. Land Rover, they have only very slightly gone down in terms of their market share by 1.84%, and they have 3.4% market share and sold just over 72,000 cars. Again, that's not bad, considering people keep talking about how bad Land Rover and Jaguar are, and what the state of them is. I don't think that's too bad. Lexus will go on to now. They've seen quite a significant increase, about 25% increase. In fact, that's very, very good. We won't see too many manufacturers that have done that in 2019 at all. So they sold just under 15,000 cars up until the end of November, and that's a 0.7% market share. Lotus, it's quite negligible. It's about 200 cars a year, so that's not really that relevant. Maserati, that's had a big decrease in 2019. They sold over 1,000 cars last year, and this year they've only sold about 900 cars. It's a 26% decrease. Mazda, now they I thought weren't going to come up too well for 2019, but it's probably due to the new Mazda 3. They've got a 0.6% market share increase, and they sold just under 38,000 cars. It's a 1.75% of the market share. Now, if we look at Mercedes-Benz, this continues to be a brand on the rise in this country. It's quite surprising, really, that there's more cars Mercedes-Benz sell in the top 20 best-selling cars than Vauxhall now. They sold 162,000 cars, 7.5% market share, and they're up by 0.82%. That's probably due to the PCP deals they offer, which are very competitive actually. Someone would much rather normally in this country have a C-Class than a Mondeo, wouldn't they? Although I wouldn't, especially I'm in that category, although I like Mercedes generally. Mitsubishi, now, this hasn't gone so well for them. They have a 0.7% market share. They sold just over 15,000 cars, and they are down by 20.73%. I really don't know why. I don't know particularly why it's such a big decrease. The model lineup is similar apart from the withdrawal of the Shogun. Obviously, I'm sitting in a Shogun right now, as you can tell. This car's finally been discontinued, and it's a shame. I do like these. They just have a bit of a niche market. Hopefully, the new stuff that's being released, not just facelifts of the ASX and the Mirage, which have already been announced. Hopefully they can get some new models out there and reverse that. MG and Mini. Now these are two of the most famous brands in some ways for volume cars in Britain because of the historical connection. Both of them are not owned by British companies anymore. MGs aren't even built in this country. Minis, some of them are built in this country, some built abroad. MG, though, they have a 0.53% market share, which sounds tiny, but bear in mind that's a 35.4% increase. And they sold almost as many cars as Mitsubishi. They sold about 11,000, and they just keep increasing. And bear in mind that this is only up to the end of November, so this will be excluding things like the ZSEV and HS, which have not really come onto sort of full stream in terms of their sales at the moment. Nissan, Mini, sorry, we might skip Mini. They've only had they've only had a 1.75% decrease. They have sold a lot of cars actually, far more than MG did, for example, about 59,000 cars, and they got a 2.7% increase. I'm sure we're one of the biggest markets for Mini. Nissan, they sold 87,000 cars or thereabouts. They had a 10.6% decrease in market share. That leaves at about 4% of the market. They've been a lot higher in the past. Bear in mind the Duke and the Qashqai, they are quite old, but they do sell quite well over here, and both of those are built in Britain, I believe, which is interesting. Then we've got Peugeot. Again, rather like sort of Citroën, it's a brand that's been on the decline for some time, but is now starting to come back up. And they haven't done too badly for themselves at all. It's only a very small decrease, a 1.5% decrease. They've sold just over 75,000 cars last year, and that's a 3.5% market share. Porsche sold more cars than MG. They sold 13,500 cars or thereabouts, and they increased their sales by about 20.4%. That's pretty good considering how premium they are and the current situation, the economy being so uncertain. Renault didn't do so well. They had a 7.2% decrease in their market share, and up until the end of November they sold just under 54,500 cars. It's a 2.5% market share. Nissan does much better over here, funnily enough, than they do. Seat, they did even better than Renault. They're coming up to sort of somewhere near Peugeot territory. They sold 65,000 cars. It's a 3% market share, and that is an 8.4% increase on 2018. I don't find that at all surprising, despite the fact that they haven't had too many kind of new launches this year, apart from things like the Cupra Ateca and the Mi Electric. The other ones they've seen are concept cars. Perhaps I'll stay loyal to Seat and buy another one next year when I find my trailer runs out. Who knows? I'm not sure at the moment. Skoda did even better. They've got a 3.2% market share. They only decreased by 0.2%. Now, again, bear in mind the car market overall in Britain decreased by about 2.7%. In 11 months up to end of November, compared with last year. That's not too bad. So they're marginally better than Seat. Similar sort of thing, really. Smart didn't do so well. They've only got a 0.18% market share. That's down 45% on 2018. SsangYong. If SsangYong could market their cars properly and people actually bought them, then that would be great. I think SsangYong makes some great cars. Tivoli's a good car. Rexon's a good car, even if the fuel economy is a bit is a bit heavy on it, and also it's a separate chassis on those, so it's not quite the same as, say, a Santa Fe or a Kia Sorento. But yes, despite the fact the new Corando is out, their market share has gone down by 29.7%. They're way smaller than MG. They've only got a 0.09% market share now. They sold less than 1,900 cars up to in November. That is a shame. Subaru, again, not a huge player in our market, down 22.4%. Compared with 2018, they sold 2,300 cars, 0.11% market share. Suzuki, they did a little bit better, sold 33,000 cars, so 1.49% market share, and sadly that is a decrease. It's a decrease of just over 11%. I don't really know why. I think they make some fantastic cars. Ignis is good. Vitara is particularly strong. The Jimny, everybody loves the Jimny, but they just can't build those things fast enough. If they could maybe sell a few more of them, then yeah, where the people would be even happier and they'd increase their market share. We've only got a few brands left. Let's just take a pause before we look at Toyota. Toyota are a huge force to be reckoned with in this country and many parts of the world. They've got no plans to shut the Burniston plant in Derbyshire, where they make the Corolla and some others, I believe. I can't remember exactly. I think the Corolla's the main one they make there. They sold just over 100,000 cars in 2019 up to the end of November. They got a 4.65% market share, and that's a 1.5% increase over last year, probably due to the new Corolla being so much better in many ways than the Yaris. I didn't think Yaris is a bad car. A lot of people keep telling me how bad the Yaris was. I really don't think it was that bad, but you know, anyway, the Corolla is a lot better. Vauxhall, they sold 153,000 cars last year, or thereabouts. They actually, yeah, they did sell less than Mercedes-Benz. I thought so. Interesting how that's gone, isn't it? You know, at the start of the decade, in 2010, the Astra was number 2 best-selling car in this country. Now it's not even in the top 10 at all. So Vauxhall got a 7.1% market share. They're down by 6.7%, but with cutting quite a few models that they have done, like the Adam, the Viva, the Insignia Country Tourer, and the Insignia Estate, all those have been cut now, so hopefully they can return to some profitability, which they actually have. They already have done that, so if they return to profitability, hopefully they can increase their sales too, because they make some good cars. Volkswagen, now they are very close to where Ford is. They've got an 8.6% market share. It's not too far for them to actually get up to something a lot higher than that. They sold 186,000 cars, and it's a 0.56% decrease over last year, which isn't an awful lot, really. It's not a significant difference at all. They very much, I think, will be maybe even bigger next year. I don't know. It depends if Ford can hold on. Almost there now. Volvo, they sold 52,000 cars last year to 2.4% market share, and their market share has actually increased by 12.45%. That's very good. That's probably due to the XC40 being very well received, which is great. Yes, you know, they make a fantastic range of cars now. In this list here, there is a thing called other imports. Now, Tesla, for some reason, don't have their own category on the SMMT's list. And I think, really, a lot of this data here for the imports is just over 12,000 imports last year in the other category. That will be to do with, you know, just Tesla's Model 3 coming in. And it's a huge increase. It's 171% increase over 2018. That'll be to do with the Tesla Model 3. And yeah, it's a huge increase. It's about even 0.54% of the market. So they will continue to do well, I'm sure, in the future once they sell even more of those Model 3s. So thank you ever so much indeed for watching this little bit of analysis of every manufacturer that I can find that's selling cars in Britain and how they've been performing. The market is down by 2.74% over 2018. So just bear that in mind with all the figures I've mentioned. Later this week or next week, we'll be looking at what were the top 10 best-selling cars of December 2019. I know a lot of you do enjoy looking at statistics with me, which is great, even if it's maybe not the most stimulating thing, because I have to make these videos quite quickly, and I can't stop and put photographs in them all the time, but I might actually do that for the next one. That will mean I'll have to make a different type of video, but hopefully you'll bear with me with that. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Don't forget to like this video and leave a comment below. Please visit my website, www.lloydvehicleconsulting.co.uk. If you wish me to get in touch, if you want to get in touch with me, sorry, there's a contact tab on the front page. And I look forward to hearing from you if you wish me to source a car for you in particular. I've also got a Facebook page. It's facebook.com/Lloyd Vehicle Consulting. Thank you ever so much indeed for watching.